The rain had stopped an hour ago, but the fog still clung to the cliffs like a ghost too proud to move on. Officer Elaine Mercer sat behind the wheel of her patrol car, engine humming low. Windshield smeared with mist, the coastline stretched. Before her in layers of black and silver, moonlight cutting the water like a blade. It was just after 2 a.m., and she was alone on Route 7, the winding stretch above Deadman's Drop. No radio chatter, no backup, just the static crackle of her unit's comm and the uneasy rhythm of her own breath. She was tired, not just bone-tired, soul-tired. Tired of the sideways glances from fellow officers. Tired of the locker room jokes. Tired of the whispers that got louder after every arrest she made. So low. A woman in uniform, a woman who didn't back down. That wasn't something the town of Larksview had asked for. She pulled the cruiser to the shoulder near mile marker 37, the same spot where the trees opened up to an unforgiving drop into the ocean, the same spot she passed every night and felt the same knot in her stomach. There was something about that cliff, the way it swallowed headlights, swallowed sound. Like the earth wanted secrets, she clicked on her recorder, slipped the cassette in. Patrol log. To 06 a.m., she said, her voice low. No traffic, no activity, visual clearance, low. Will remain posted for 15 minutes. She paused. Her thumb hovered over the stop button, then changed its mind. They're watching me. I can feel it now, not just on patrol, at home, at work. It's not paranoia. Something shifted after I filed that report on Jet. I don't think Internal Affairs took it seriously, but I know he's hiding something. Silence. Then, softer, if anything happens to me, check the badge logs, look for Crow. She shut off the recorder and tucked the cassette into her inner coat pocket. The wind shifted, carrying the salt stink of the Pacific. She rolled the window halfway down and lit a cigarette, something she hadn't done in months. Her hands trembled as she cupped the flame. She hadn't told Tom everything, couldn't. He'd try to stop her. He'd want her to be safe, to stay quiet. But Elaine wasn't the kind of woman who let men decide what silence she owed. Headlights. In the mirror. Brief, then gone. She sat up straight. Eyes narrowed. She killed the cruiser's lights. Stepped out into the dark. No sound but the ocean. No car, no footsteps. She clicked her flashlight on, the beam slicing through fog. Moved toward the tree line. Gravel crunched under her boots. Her pulse quickened. Then she heard it, the soft pop of a branch snapping behind her. She turned fast, light sweeping nothing. A bird, a coyote, a man. Her hand dropped to the holster. But something stopped her. The feeling, that stillness before. A scream, that silent breath before a body falls. Her grip tightened on the flashlight. Hello? She called out. No answer. Just a rhythmic crash of water on rocks. She took one step back toward the cruiser. Then another. Elaine. Came a voice, low, familiar. She froze. The light trembled in her hand. Her stomach dropped. She turned toward the voice, away from the cruiser. Ray, she said. No answer. She took another step. The beam landed on a dark figure at the cliff's edge. She raised the light. It was Sergeant Ray Jet. He didn't flinch. She lowered the flashlight slightly. What the hell are you doing out here? His voice was calm. To calm. Making sure you don't do something stupid. Her heart pounded. Following me now? That's how scared you are. You talk too much, Elaine. She took a step back. You killed Janie. A flicker crossed his face, like a flame catching wind. You don't know what you're talking about. I know enough. I have the tapes. I filed the report. You're done. He stepped forward. Where are the tapes? He said. She tightened her jaw. Someplace you'll never find. Then everything happened fast. His arm moved. Hers too. Flashlight hitting gravel. A struggle. A scream cut short by a punch to the throat. Then breathless silence. The cliff edge crumbled beneath one of them. A boot slipped. A cry echoed through the fog. The sea waited below, patient as death. At 3:41 a.m., a passing trucker spotted the cruiser. Empty, lights still on. Driver's side door ajar. By dawn, the Larksview PD would launch a full search. Helicopters, dogs, divers. They would find nothing. Just the car. One boot print at the cliff's edge. One crushed cigarette in the dirt. and no trace of Officer Elaine Mercer. Detective Tom Renner sat in the station locker room, staring at Elaine's untouched cubby. Her nameplate still gleamed, Mercer, as if she'd walk in any minute, toss her jacket on the hook, and smirk at the way he always left. His tie undone. She'd been gone for 72 hours. No body, no leads, no answers. Just a bad-shaped hole in the heart of a man who was used to fixing things and couldn't fix this. Outside, the department buzzed with routine. Missing persons paperwork, media statements, a coffee pot burned. Out after the third round of press conferences, officers went on with their days like she had evaporated into the morning mist. Some had already stopped using her name. Tom wasn't one of them. He stood and opened her locker. Inside, her scent still lingered, lavender and engine oil. Her old notebook, half a pack of gum. A photo of them at the academy graduation. She was smiling in it. He wasn't. That was always the joke. Elaine laughed like she had nothing to prove. While Tom looked like he was preparing for battle, he picked up the photo, fingers trembling. "You were never meant to disappear like this." Behind him, the door creaked open. Captain Brody's voice was flat. "Tom, I want your official statement this afternoon." He didn't turn. Already gave it. They wanted again. A pause. Then, off the record, "You should stop asking around. It's making things harder than they need to be." Tom turned now, eyes narrowing. Hard for who? Brody held his gaze a beat too long, then walked out. The town of Larksview didn't mourn properly. It rarely had to. A prayer vigil was held 3 days later at the community church. Small crowd, mostly older folks, no reporters, no brass from the station, except for Tom, who stood in the back, hands in pockets. Rage beneath skin. The pastor read Psalm 23. Elaine's mother wept quietly in the second row. Her father, a retired welder, sat stone still, as if mourning required. Too much energy. Tom had promised them he'd take care of her. He broke that promise the night she vanished. Back at his apartment, the silence pressed against the walls. He stared at the untouched voicemail on his landline. He hadn't been able to bring himself to delete it. Elaine's last message, left at 1:57 a.m., just 10 minutes before she went dark. He hit play. "Tom, I think something's going down tonight. If I'm wrong, you can tease me for it later. But if I'm right, I need you to find the tapes. You know where. The red box. Don't trust anyone. Not Brody. Not even Ia. Don't call me back. Just do it." Her voice was calm. Too calm. The message ended with a soft inhale, then static. He leaned back in his chair and shut his eyes. That night, she'd left his place just after dinner. They'd argued. She hadn't told him why she'd been so jumpy. She said it was better if he didn't know, that if she told him, he might get involved and get hurt. He'd laughed. "I'm a cop. We're always involved." Her eyes had said otherwise. Now she was gone, and her voice lived on as a warning. 2 days later, Ia declared the case inactive. The official theory, suicide. Officer Mercer, under extreme psychological stress, may have driven to the cliffs and jumped. Evidence supports this due to lack of struggle at the scene and her recent behavioral shifts. Tom wanted to set the report on fire. Behavioral shifts. She'd been exhausted because she was being harassed. No mention of her complaint against Sergeant Ray Jett 2 weeks before her disappearance. No mention of the pregnancy rumors, the night shifts she'd been suddenly assigned, or the black eye she showed up with and blamed on a suspect. One no one could name. No one asked why. Her service weapon was never found. They just closed the folder. Tom didn't. He went to her apartment the next day. The key still worked. Inside, everything was untouched. Dishes in the sink. A pair of boots by the door. Her old jacket hanging crookedly on the coat hook. And the red box. It was where she said it'd be. Behind the loose panel under her bed. Inside. CASSETTE tapes, dozens. All labeled by date. Some had names, others had only numbers. There were notes too, written in her sharp, left-slanted cursive. Mostly observations, suspicions. One caught his eye immediately. Crow said Janie wasn't the only one. Ray knew, covered it. Maybe was it. Need backup. No one at HQ. Not even Brody. I'm not crazy. Tape 9 confirms. Crow, the name again. Not in any files, not mentioned by Ia. Not in any arrest log Elaine had filed. He popped tape 9 into her old player, her voice again. A whisper. Crow says he saw a jet at the cliffs the night Janie disappeared. That jet warned him to stay quiet. That Janie had found something. Said she wasn't scared anymore. Tom paused the tape. Janie Parker, a 19-year-old waitress who went missing the year before Elaine joined the force. Case closed as a runaway. Parents left town. No follow-up. Elaine had been looking into it. Quietly. And now she was gone too. Tom packed the tapes and notes and left the apartment through the back. The last thing he needed was to get stopped by a friendly face who'd report him for tampering with evidence. Because now he knew Elaine hadn't jumped. She'd found something they'd killed her to bury. Across town, at the edge of the cliff, someone else stood watching the waves crash far below. A man in a dark coat, smoking, staring at the spot where the cruiser was found. He dropped his cigarette, crushed it under his boot. Then he walked back into the fog, unnoticed. The tide was low that morning. 15-year-old Dylan Voss crouched beside a tide pool near Deadman's Drop. Camera slung around his neck, sneakers, soaked in salt water. He was skipping summer school and calling it marine biology practice. That's what he'd tell his mom anyway. He had a thing for crabs and sea glass, but mostly, he liked the silence. The whole beach felt like a secret no one else wanted. Except today, the ocean gave something back. He was photographing a crab shell shaped like a heart when the sunlight hit metal. Just beyond the pool, half buried in kelp and sand, a flash of something gold. He moved closer. It wasn't sea glass. It was a badge. Tarnished. Bent slightly. Still legible. Larksview Police, Mercer, E. 1977. He froze. He'd heard the story. Like everyone else in town. Officer Mercer, the girl cop, who vanished before his mom was even pregnant. No one ever found her. Just her car. Just rumors. And here, buried where only the sea could hide it, her badge. He stepped back. Heart pounding. That's when he saw it. A patch of bone, not white, but sun-faded yellow, tangled in roots, to ribs, maybe, an arm fragment, something, hollow stuck between rocks, a piece of skull, small but unmistakable. He screamed and stumbled back, feet kicking water, mind screaming louder than his lungs. He bolted up the cliffside path, camera forgotten. By noon, the cove was swarmed with yellow tape. Search teams and news vans. Detective Janelle Carr pulled on latex gloves and ducked under the taped perimeter, squinting against the morning glare. She hated cold cases. They never stayed dead. They rotted, waiting for someone like her to trip over them again. 15 years. That's how long the Mercer case had been boxed and buried. Until now. Is it her? She asked the coroner, kneeling beside the exposed remains. He nodded slowly. Clothing fragments match the 77 uniform specs. Dental ID will take a day or two. But it's her. Janelle exhaled sharply. Jesus Christ. Behind her. Officers marked evidence. Soil samples. The badge. Bone fragments. A rusted cross-shaped necklace, still clinging to a sliver of flesh. She turned toward the cliff above. Why the hell would she be down here? The coroner looked up at her, voice flat. She didn't fall. The angle's wrong. Body didn't tumble. It was placed, covered, hidden, a murder site, not a drop. Janelle stared down at the badge in the evidence bag, scratched, dulled, but still hers. Elaine Mercer had been down there all this time, and no one had looked hard enough. By evening, the station's walls were buzzing with ghosts. Reporters camped outside. Old detectives, now retired or disgraced, were getting calls they never expected. Inside, the case files were being unboxed, and in the evidence room, someone had reprinted the photo of Elaine in uniform, the one they used in the original flyers. It was pinned to the board like a curse finally remembered. Janelle sat alone in the archive room, scrolling through faded microfiche. She found an article from 1977, tiny headline, female officer missing, suicide not ruled out. No follow-up, no details. Just 3 paragraphs. She flipped to the next reel. A handout poster. Reward for info on Officer Elaine Mercer. Someone had scribbled cold feet, cold case across it in Sharpie. Classy. She turned off the reel and leaned back. Everything about this case stunk of buried truth. The kind that scared people into silence. The kind that took 15 years to breathe again. Across town, in a trailer off the highway, Tom Renner watched the breaking news through a haze of cigarette smoke. They'd found her. He saw the footage of the badge, the search dogs, the coroners. Elaine had finally come back. His hands shook, not from grief that had calcified years ago. No, this was something worse. Now they'd have to listen. He opened the drawer beside him and pulled out the old red box. The tapes were still there, dusty but untouched. So were her notes, dog-eared, fraying at the corners. He hadn't looked at them in over a decade. He never wanted to. But now she was speaking again. The badge sat in an evidence bag like it was waiting to be judged. Detective Janelle Carr stared at it from across the interrogation table. She'd requested the quiet room, the one without cameras. She didn't trust the eyes behind the walls, not anymore. The Mercer case had cracked open like an old bone. Not just found placed. The coroner had confirmed no signs of blunt trauma, but ligature marks on the neck, post-mortem positioning, and fibers that didn't match her uniform. It was murder. Clean, quiet, and buried under 15 years of silence. She sipped cold coffee, scrolling through the old case file again. The original statements were riddled with inconsistencies and omissions. No autopsy, because there'd been no body. No internal probe into the harassment complaints Mercer filed. The psychological distress claim came from two male officers. Both had left the force within a year. One to a DUI, the other to God knows where. Janelle hated cold cases, but she hated cover-ups more. Her phone buzzed. A name blinked. T. Renner. She picked up. "This is Carr." A gravel voice answered. "Your lead on Mercer?" "I am." Pause. Then, "You're already being lied to." He looked worse than she expected. Tom Renner had the face of a man who'd been digging his own grave, and somehow kept waking up in it. Late 40s, maybe early 50s, if time had been cruel. Graying stubble, sunken eyes, and a way of speaking that made every word feel like an accusation. They met at a diner on the edge of town. His choice. She slid into the booth across from him. He didn't offer a handshake. "I figured you'd call eventually," he said. "I didn't know you existed until this morning." "Even better," he muttered. "Means they didn't scrub everything." He reached into his coat and slid a manila envelope across the table. She didn't touch it yet. "That tape Elaine left, the voicemail, we recovered it. It mentions something called Crow. You know what that means?" Tom nodded slowly. Crow was her CI, the teenager. No record, because she never filed him officially. Said he wasn't safe. Why not? Tom looked out the window. Because he saw something. Back in '76, same year Janie Parker went missing. Janelle's brow furrowed. "You're saying Mercer's case is linked to Parker's?" "I'm saying Mercer thought it was." He leaned forward. "And I believe her." She opened the envelope. Inside, old photos, typed notes, copied transcripts, and a small cassette, written on the label in red pen. "Crow 7, do not erase." "Why didn't you come forward?" she asked. "I did. No one listened. You didn't go public." He gave a bitter laugh. "I was told to grieve. Then I was told to shut up. Then I drank enough to forget I cared." She narrowed her eyes. "And now she's back," he said, "and someone has to burn for it." Back at the precinct, Janelle slipped the tape into a converted player. Elaine's voice flooded the room. Calm, focused, haunted. Crow said Janie had files, photos. She took them from someone's office, said she found proof that Sergeant Jett was dealing coke on the side, moving it through lockers at the station. Said she'd take it to internal. Then she disappeared. A pause. Then, Crow's scared. Thinks Jett knows he talked. "I don't know who to trust. But if anything happens to me, he's where they'll start." Jett, that name again. Janelle pulled his file. Sergeant Ray Jett, served from '68 to '85. Commendations for bravery, multiple use of force incidents swept under procedure. Retired, found dead in his garage in 1986, ruled suicide. "Too convenient," she muttered. She dug further. Jet's partner for 5 years, Captain Brody, now Chief. It all started to coil like wire in her chest. She stood. "Why are you reopening?" This Chief Brody asked, his voice casual but his jaw tight. Janelle didn't blink. "Because we recovered the body, and evidence says it wasn't a fall. You think someone pushed her? I think someone silenced her." A beat of silence. Brody leaned back in his chair. "This town's been through enough. Do we really want to drag ghosts into it? She wasn't a ghost." She snapped. "She was an officer. Your officer." He sighed. "You've been here, what, 6 years? Let me give you some advice. Sometimes the dead don't need to speak." Janelle stared at him for a long time, then walked out. That night, she went to the old evidence storage at Station B, where cold case materials were still boxed and unlabeled, stacked like forgotten bones. She pulled the Mercer box. Dust flew. Inside, her locker inventory, photos, her service weapon, unloaded, rusted, and never entered into the system as recovered. A cassette recorder, blank tapes, except one. A letter, sealed in a file marked, "Do not release, per order." She opened it. Elaine's handwriting again. "To whoever finds this, if I'm dead, I wasn't crazy. I wasn't unstable. I wasn't weak. I was silenced. They want you to believe I couldn't handle it. But the truth is, I handled it too well. I saw too much. Jet wasn't acting alone. There's someone else, someone higher. Look for the girl who vanished before me. Look at the night logs. Look at the tapes. The truth is buried. But it's not dead, not yet." Janelle folded the letter, hands shaking. Outside, lightning cracked the sky. A storm was coming. But this time, the town would have to listen. The file was hidden under a false drawer at the bottom of the cold case cabinet, a place even Dust had forgotten. It didn't exist in the database. No label, no barcode. Just a faded manila folder with a single word handwritten across the front in red ink. Crow. Detective Janelle Carr stared at it like it might bleed. Inside, a Polaroid of a teenage boy, face partially obscured, handwritten notes by Elaine Mercer, a burned corner of what looked like a locker log, a list of names, circled, some crossed out, a copy of a sealed incident report from 1976, missing minor. Janie Parker. Janelle spread the materials on the evidence table and started reading Elaine's notes first. The handwriting was fast, emotional, angry. These weren't reports, they were confessions. Half police work, half diary. "Crow is scared. Says they followed him home last week. Said he saw Jet meet with Brody late one night in the alley behind Maine. Same night Janie went missing. Crow won't testify, not unless I can guarantee protection. He's just a kid, but he knows too much. He said something I can't shake. They don't care if we vanish. They just make us part of the cliffs." That last line sent a chill down her spine. Janelle stared at the name again. Crow, no last name, no date of birth. Not even an official CI form. She turned to the Polaroid. It was grainy, but you could just make out the fear in the kid's eyes. Long hair, thin shoulders, and a bruise peeking out from under his collar. A street kid, maybe 16. The kind of kid nobody missed until he talked too loud. And Elaine had been protecting him. That made to people gone within months. Janie, then Elaine. Both tied to this kid. She pulled the sealed incident report. Missing person report. Janie Lynn Parker, 19. Last seen May 17, 1976. Waitress, no criminal record. No family still in town. Final note. Presumed runaway. No signs of foul play. Case closed. But at the bottom, scribbled in different handwriting, "Check locker logs. Ask about Crow." She knew. No initials. No signature. Someone had tried to resurrect this before. Someone besides Elaine. Janelle reached for her recorder and hit record. July 14, 1992. Carr, Mercer file, reopened. Reviewing previously concealed material. Evidence now suggests multiple parties involved in silencing Mercer. Unofficial witness code. Name, Crow likely still alive. Parker case not isolated. Potential drug and corruption network involving SKT, Ray Jet, and possibly Chief Brody. She stopped the tape and sat back. If she pushed this forward, It wouldn't just reopen a case, it would rip out the town's lungs. That night, she met Tom again, this time not at a diner, but his small, dusty garage on the south end. Boxes of newspaper clippings, cassette players, and whiskey bottles lined the walls like old war trophies. "You weren't wrong," she said. Holding up the folder, she found a second case. "Janie Parker, you knew. Tom took the file like it was radioactive. Elaine asked me to stay out of it. Said it was too deep already. She left a trail anyway. Buried it where no one would look, in plain sight." Tom looked through the notes. "Crow, he's the thread. He's the lock and the key," Janelle replied. "If we find him, we break the case open." Tom hesitated. "I don't know if he's still alive. You saw his face. He had to go somewhere." Tom nodded slowly. "There's a name Elaine mentioned once. Monroe. Might have been his real last name, or a lie. But she said he used to hang out near the train yard." Janelle grabbed her jacket. "Then that's where I'll start. The train yard at night smelled like rust and old stories." She walked past tagged freight cars and broken chain link fences, flashlight low. An older man sat by a barrel fire near the far end, denim jacket, beard, and tired eyes that had seen decades of things no one ever believed. "You ain't lost," he muttered before she spoke. "Name's Carr. Detective." He didn't flinch. "You. Looking for the one they used to call Crow." Her heart skipped. "You know him." The man nodded. Slow and solemn. "He was here. For years. Lived in that old boxcar with the green roof. Left maybe 7 years back. Said he was tired of hiding." "Where'd he go?" He stared into the fire. "Said he was heading east. Changed his name. Said he didn't want to be Crow no more. Just a shadow, finally fading." Janelle pulled the Polaroid from her pocket. "This him." The man didn't even look. "That's him." She crouched. "Do you remember his real name?" He shook his head. "No. But I remember what he said before he left." "What?" The man's eyes met hers, hollow. He said, "I saw her die, but no one believed me. So now I live like I didn't." Back at the station, Janelle pulled the police database. She typed in Caleb Monroe, the only Monroe listed in town with no full arrest record, just a few loitering charges from the 80s. A current address blinked on screen. A trailer park just north of the old logging road. She printed the file, heart pounding. Because if this was him, if Crow still lived, then the dead weren't done talking. Marla Jett lived in a pale yellow house on Whitmore Street, the kind with lace curtains and rose bushes that had long since stopped blooming. From the outside, it looked like time had passed peacefully here. From the inside, it hadn't. Detective Janelle Carr sat in the living room, her notebook unopened. In her lap, she wasn't here to interrogate. Not yet. She was here to listen, because Marla had called her. After 15 years of silence, the widow of Sergeant Ray Jett wanted to talk. Marla entered quietly with 2 mugs of tea, her steps careful, rehearsed. She was tall, still sharp-featured, but time had drained the color from her. Her wrists bore faint scars, half covered by the sleeves of her cardigan. Janelle offered a soft smile. "Thank you for seeing me." Marla nodded and sat. A long silence, stretched between them, held only by the distant ticking of a mantel clock. Then Marla spoke, her voice thin and cracking like glass under pressure. "She came to me. The week she vanished." Janelle blinked. "Elaine Mercer." Marla nodded. "She showed up at my door. Alone, no badge, no car. Just fear in her eyes. Said she needed to talk. Said she didn't trust the men in the department, not even her own partner. She met your husband." Marla took a breath. "She meant Ray, yes. But it was bigger than just him. She said something was coming, that it involved an old case. A girl who vanished. Janie Parker, yes. She had files, notes. Said she had a witness. I didn't ask who. I didn't want to know. Did she tell you what she planned to do?" Marla hesitated, fingers tightening on her mug. "She said she was going to internal affairs. Said if they ignored her again, she'd go public. Said she didn't care what it cost. She looked exhausted, but ready. Brave, I guess. Braver than I ever was." Janelle leaned forward. "Did your husband know she came here?" Marla's lip trembled. "He came home early that night. Saw her car down the block, I think. He never said a word." just walked into the kitchen and stared at me like I'd handed him a knife. She swallowed hard. Later, I heard him on the phone. Quiet. Clipped. I only caught one sentence. If she talks, it takes both of us down. Janelle's spine stiffened. Did he say who he was calling? No. But he left the house 10 minutes later. Didn't come back until nearly sunrise. His boots were muddy. His jacket was soaked. And the fireplace smelled like something had burned. Marla's eyes finally met Janelle's. He was calm, but I knew what he'd done. Janelle clicked on her recorder. Marla, would you be willing to give a sworn statement? Marla didn't answer right away. She looked at the fireplace, long extinguished. I told myself I was protecting my children, that if I kept quiet, they'd be safe, that he was dead anyway, and it wouldn't matter. But that woman, she died, alone, and she came to me for help. Janelle's voice softened. It's not too late to speak. Marla nodded slowly. The official statement took an hour. Janelle wrote every word by hand. Not trusting the station recorders, Marla recounted what she saw, what she heard, what she suspected. It wasn't a smoking gun, but it was fire damage. It was weight. When it was done, Marla handed her a small velvet pouch. I want you to have this. Janelle opened it. Inside was a silver ring, tarnished, heavy, engraved with our J. His? She asked. Found it under the rug the day after. Elaine vanished. He must have dropped it during the storm. It's his academy ring. He never went a day without it. Until that day, Janelle pocketed it carefully. Thank you, Marla. But Marla wasn't finished. There's one more thing. She stood and crossed to an old armoire. Opened it. Pulled out a thin folder wrapped in plastic. He kept this hidden under the floorboard. I only found it after he died. Thought about burning it. Thought about keeping it. I did neither. Inside the folder, a single page. A printed list of names and badge numbers. 10 in total. 3 were crossed out. Elaine Mercer's name was circled. At the bottom. Handwritten. Compromised. Clean up priority. Janelle's heart dropped. This wasn't just about shutting her up, she said. This was planned. Like an operation. Marla whispered. He used to say he was protecting the department. I think he was protecting himself, and whoever was above him. Janelle stood. You've done the right thing, Mrs. Jett. Marla gave her a sad smile. Too late for right, but not too late for truth. That night, Janelle sat in her car outside the station, staring at the list. She cross-referenced the badge numbers. One belonged to a retired officer in Nevada. One to a man who died in '84. One was still active. A desk sergeant named Philip Crane, currently assigned to records. She circled his name. If someone inside had been scrubbing files, keeping Crow off the books, burying EA reports, Crane would be the first place to look. She was about to start the car when her phone buzzed. Blocked number. She answered. Car, a shaky voice responded. Don't hang up. I think I'm Crow. Silence. Janelle gripped the wheel tighter. Where are you? I don't want to say. I heard you were asking. That you went to the train yard. I have something she gave me, but they're still out there. Caleb, listen, I'll call again, he said. But not if you tell anyone, not even the other cop. Not Tom. Click. Janelle sat in the dark, heart racing. Elaine's ghost wasn't done talking, and neither was Crow. The motel was a dying thing. Green neon buzzed weakly above the sign. Shoreline Lodge, weekly rates. Room 9 smelled like bleach, old cigarettes, and resignation. Caleb Monroe, once called Crow, stood behind the cracked blinds, watching the parking lot like the sky might fall through it. He hadn't slept in days, not since he heard her name on the radio. Elaine Mercer. Remains identified. Case reopened. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. His voice had almost failed when he called the detective. But now she was coming, and the past was slamming its fists against the inside of his ribs. A knock. 3 soft raps. Caleb moved to the door, slow, cautious. He opened it just enough to see the woman from the photo. Detective Janelle Carr, hair tied back. No uniform, no partner. Are you alone? He asked. Yes. He opened the door. Janelle stepped in quietly, scanning the room. No weapons, just clothes, old VHS tapes, a bucket of ice with unopened sodas. Caleb looked mid-30s, but older in the eyes, the kind of older that trauma sculpts. He sat on the bed, legs trembling. I thought they'd find me before you did. Janelle kept her voice low. No one knows I'm here. Not even the department. You're safe. He gave a hollow laugh. There's no such thing. She sat across from him, pulled out her recorder. Are you ready to talk? Caleb looked at the floor. No, but I will. He started slow. He'd met Elaine in 1976 when he was 15. He was living under the docks, stealing food, running from foster care. She caught him once, then let him go, then fed him, then asked questions. She never judged, just listened. Then one night, he saw something. He'd been sleeping behind the dumpster behind Jet's tavern, looking for scraps. That's when he saw Jet, Sergeant Ray Jet, arguing with a girl outside the bar. She was crying, saying, "You said I'd be safe. I have the photos." Then a second man stepped into view. Caleb didn't know his name, just his face. It was Brody. Caleb said, eyes locked on the carpet. He grabbed her by the arm, pulled her into the car. She screamed. No one came. Janelle's voice caught. You're sure it was Brody? Yes. Was it Janie Parker? She wore a necklace with a music note charm. I remember because it glowed in the dark. Elaine showed me a photo later. Same necklace. He took a deep breath. I told Elaine what I saw. She believed me, wrote it all down, said she was building a case, said if anything happened to her, she'd leave something behind. Janelle leaned forward. What did she leave? Caleb reached under the mattress and pulled out a black plastic bag. Inside, a single cassette tape, labeled in red marker, Crow, master copy, trust nitrogen monoxide 1. He handed it to her. I've never played it, been too afraid. Janelle stood. I have a player in my car. Wait here. No, Caleb said, standing quickly. If you walk out of here with that tape and someone sees you, I'm dead. We both are. Janelle paused. He was right. If this was the real thing, if it proved what he said, it was dangerous to everyone who touched it. She nodded. We listen here. The motel TV was ancient, but it had a cassette deck built into the side. She slipped the tape in. The gears whined. Then, click, silence. Then Elaine's voice. This is Officer Elaine Mercer. July 3rd, 1977. If you're hearing this, it means I'm gone. Her voice was steady, but strained. Crow gave me the name, Brody. It all makes sense now. The Janie Parker file was scrubbed. Her locker check-ins disappeared. But I found the original logs, hidden in Sergeant Jet's desk. Janie was working nights at the bar. She saw Jet moving coke, saw Brody helping. She took photos. They found out, and they made her vanish. A pause, then the sound of paper flipping. These names, they're part of something bigger. Half of them never made it past rookie year. The rest, they're still in uniform. And they're laundering through city funds, locker rentals, even charity drives. I have proof. Photos, deposits. If anything happens to me, follow the list. Another pause. Crow is the only witness. He doesn't know how much danger he's in. If Brody finds him, he won't survive. This town covers its crimes in uniforms. And I won't be its next missing girl. The tape cut to silence. Janelle exhaled slowly. Then turned to Caleb. I need to get this into evidence, secure and off-site. You'll need protection. He laughed darkly. Protection from cops? I'm not them. You are them. She stood. No, I'm what they forgot a cop could be. That night, Janelle drove the tape to an external chain of custody vault 3 towns over. She made 3 duplicates. One went into a safe, one to a reporter she trusted. The third, she gave to Tom Renner. He held it like it was bone. Is this it? He asked. It's the thing she died for. Janelle said. Tom didn't cry. He hadn't in years, but his hands did shake. Then let's bury them with it. Her name was Leah Tran. Independent journalist, ex-newspaper, now podcast. She lived out of her car half the year and carried a voice recorder like it was a weapon. She didn't trust cops, and for good reason. But she trusted the tape. It was 6:40 p.m. when Detective Janelle Carr slid it across the diner table in a padded envelope. No name on it. No label. Leah opened it carefully, slipping the cassette into her old player. She listened. Every single Word. When it finished, she sat back in the booth, stunned. The neon buzzed overhead like it was short-circuiting on purpose. "You're sure it's real?" she asked. I cross-referenced Mercer's handwriting, voice pattern, and the badge numbers. "It's real." Leah didn't blink. "This tape implicates your current chief in a murder conspiracy." Janelle nodded. "And I need it in the light. Fast." Leah slid the envelope into her bag. "I'll go public, but not through a story." "What then?" "A drop. Podcast episode. Anonymous. No names, not until we confirm every piece. Otherwise, they'll scrub it. They're already trying." Leah stood. "Then we'd better beat them to it." That night, Leah parked her 2003 Honda Civic behind a gas station on Highway 12. She kept her gear in the trunk, a laptop, mic, converter, and her backup drives. This wasn't her first expose, but it might be her last. She uploaded a teaser to her private server. "Just 2 minutes of the tape. If you're hearing this, I'm gone. Crow gave me the name. Brody. It all makes sense now." She attached a cryptic title, Larksview 1977. They made her vanish. Then she scheduled the full episode to go live in 12 hours. Leah didn't sleep, just watched the clock. 5:20 a.m. Janelle's phone lit up. Unknown number. She answered on instinct. All she heard was screaming. Then a man's voice. "Fire on County Road 8. Send someone. There's a car. She's inside." The line went dead when she arrived. Flames were already chewing through metal. The Civic's windows had blown out. Smoke bled into the sky like ink. Two paramedics stood near the guardrail, shaking their heads. Leah's body had been pulled from the driver's side. That it was too late. The fire marshal found the source within 10 minutes. Arson. Accelerant in the engine block. Ignition planted. Janelle collapsed against her car, the cold wind cutting straight through her. Leah was gone. The podcast episode never aired. Her backups torched. Her laptop destroyed. Her life deleted, file by file. At the station, Janelle sat in front of her locker. A voicemail waited on her desk line. She hit play. "Detective Carr, you were warned. The past belongs to the dirt. Keep digging, and you'll be buried with it." No voice signature. No traceable number. No hesitation. Just a promise. Across town. Tom Renner lit a cigarette with shaking hands. The third duplicate tape, the one Janelle gave him, was locked in his basement, inside a safe behind a wall panel. He thought about the last 24 hours. The tape, the call, Leah's death. He stared at the safe, then at the garage door. Not yet. He muttered. That afternoon, Janelle requested an official meeting with Chief Brody. She walked into his office like she wasn't sure she'd walk out. He looked up from his desk. "Calm. To calm. You're not on shift. I'm not here as a cop," she said. "I'm here as a witness." Brody folded his hands. "You should choose your words very carefully." She placed a photo of Elaine on the desk, then a second. "Leah's burned-out car. This ends one way or another." Brody chuckled. "You think this is about one woman, one case? I think it's about 15 years of silence. And I think you're running out of places to hide." His expression darkened. "You're overstepping. I'm just getting started." She turned and walked out. That night, Tom made his decision. He called Janelle. "Turn on the radio." She did. A familiar voice crackled to life. Elaine Mercer's. Tom had taken the third duplicate and played it live on a pirate FM frequency. He'd once helped a friend build in the 80s. Low watt. Old school. But it worked. "If you're hearing this, I'm gone." The message cut across county lines. Within the hour, the whole town had heard it. By sunrise, the tape had gone viral, rebroadcast on multiple stations, uploaded to forums, passed around on analog and digital channels alike. Elaine was speaking to the world. And this time, the world was listening, but not everyone was ready for the truth. At the precinct, someone entered the records room at 3:04 a.m. They used an officer's badge. They disabled the cameras. They walked straight to the cold case drawer labeled Mercer, and they removed everything. Notes, photos, audio logs, statements. Gone. By the time Janelle arrived the next morning, the file had been reduced to dust. A sticky note sat on her desk. It read, "You lose. She stays dead." Below it, a matchstick. But this time, They had miscalculated, because the fire had already spread, and someone else, someone even they had forgotten, was about to strike back. Caleb Monroe didn't sleep anymore. Not really. After Leah's death, he stopped eating too. The nightmares were no longer dreams. They were memories crawling up his throat. He'd tried to run his whole life. From the cliffs, from Elaine's blood, from the sound of Janie Parker's voice screaming behind a bar on a warm summer night. But now, the fire had come back for them all. So Caleb stopped running. Instead, he opened the door to the other truth, the one he'd buried even deeper. Detective Janelle Carr sat across from him again. Same motel, same dim light, same ticking clock in the background. "You okay?" she asked. "No," he said honestly. "But that's not what matters." He placed a weathered envelope on the table, thick, old, yellowed at the edges. "I didn't tell you everything." "I figured," Janelle said gently. He didn't flinch. "This," he tapped the envelope, "is what she left me. Not just the tape, not just the list, but this name." He pulled out a single sheet of paper, written in bold black pen. "Sandra Parker, witness unaccounted. Do not file. Protect at all costs." Janelle's brow furrowed. "Janie's sister." Caleb nodded slowly. "Elaine found her after Janie disappeared. Sandra was just 16. She'd been hiding, scared. She saw everything that night. She didn't run. She watched from the alley." Janelle's voice tightened. "She saw the abduction. She saw who took Janie. She saw Brody. She saw Jet. And she saw the car, the same cruiser they later logged as in maintenance." Janelle's pulse pounded. "Where is Sandra now?" Caleb swallowed. "That's the thing. She's been in a care home for almost 15 years. Catatonic for the first 10. Nobody knew who she was. No ID. Admitted under the name Jane Esto." "Jesus," Janelle breathed. "Elaine found her, hid her, and someone buried her in a facility so she couldn't speak." Caleb nodded. "I checked last year. She's awake now, speaking again. But she doesn't trust anyone." "She might trust me," Janelle said, already rising. "Where?" "The facility was in our out-of-town, St. Elsbeth's Behavioral Center, tucked behind a series of broken hills and rusted mailboxes. It was quiet, peaceful, the kind of place where people came to be forgotten, in clean beds and soft lighting." Sandra Parker sat in the garden when Janelle arrived. Long hair, streaked gray too soon, hands folded, eyes distant but not lost. Janelle approached slowly. "Ms. Parker?" she asked. Sandra blinked, then nodded once. "I'm Detective Janelle Carr. I think you knew Elaine Mercer." Sandra's hands clenched involuntarily. "She was kind," she said softly. "She tried to protect you. She did, until they took her too." Janelle sat beside her. "I know what happened. I've seen the file, the tapes. But I need you to say it, not just for Mercer, for Janie." Sandra didn't cry, but her voice cracked like old wood. "They grabbed her, outside the bar. They pulled her into the car. She bit one of them, Jet, I think. He hit her hard. Then Brody. He had a needle. She went quiet. Then they drove off." Janelle whispered, "Why didn't you come forward?" "I was scared. They saw me. I ran. Hid for 2 days. Then, someone found me. A man in a suit. He said he worked for the county. Told me I was safe. Next thing I knew, I was in a hospital bed. No ID, no voice. You were sedated." Sandra nodded. "For years. And Elaine found you. She brought me a necklace, Janie's. She said she wouldn't let them win. But I told her. I saw a third man." Janelle stiffened. "A third?" Sandra nodded slowly. "Not a cop, not in uniform. But they called him Councilman. I remember that. He gave them an envelope. Told Brody to clean this up. Then he left." Janelle's mind spun. "Councilman. No name, but now a title. A third accomplice. Someone political. Someone with reach beyond the badge. Do you remember what he looked like?" Sandra turned. "I drew him." She pulled a folded sketch from her coat. A face, sharp jaw, graying temples, crooked nose, familiar. Janelle stared at it in horror, because she'd seen that face. In portraits. In campaign ads. Mayor Stanley McBride, mayor of Larksview, for the last 20 years, back at the station. Janelle pulled every shred of McBride's background she could find. And there it was, city councilman, 1975 to 1982. Known associate of Brody. Private donor to the police charity fund. Jet once oversaw. Photographed outside Jet's tavern on the night Janie disappeared. But the photo had never been entered into the Parker case file. Suppressed, forgotten, or scrubbed clean. Until now. That night, Janelle, Caleb, and Tom sat in the garage again. The new war room. She taped Sandra's sketch to the corkboard. 3 men, she said. 1 dead, 1 chief, 1 mayor, and all of them killers, Tom whispered. No, Caleb said. Only 1 pulled the trigger. The other 2, they made sure the town kept looking away. And now, Janelle leaned forward, fire in her eyes. Now we make it impossible to look anywhere else. Mayor Stanley McBride wore secrets better than suits. He was a charming man, in that polished, plastic way that made people forget how long he'd been around. He'd survived 5 administrations, 2 scandals, and 1 failed marriage with his reputation somehow still intact. But now, finally, someone had found the smell under his cologne, and it reeked of blood. Detective Janelle Carr didn't file a warrant. She didn't go through protocol. She walked straight into town hall at 10:07 a.m. on a Monday and said 5 words. That made the receptionist nearly drop her coffee. Tell McBride I'm coming in. By the time she reached his office, 2 aides were already standing outside, blocking the door. Mayor's not taking meetings, one said stiffly. Janelle flashed her badge like a blade. He is now, she shoved past. McBride stood near the window, his back to her, overlooking the town he'd ruled for 20 years. Detective Carr, he said smoothly. Without turning, I expected this moment. I even rehearsed a speech. She closed the door behind her. Don't bother. I'm not recording. McBride turned slowly. He looked older up close. Cracks in the paint. The thin smile of a man who thinks power is armor. I take it this is about Mercer. Janelle said nothing. I always liked her, he added. Smart, fiery. But she didn't understand the cost of peace. You mean silence, Janelle replied coldly. I mean compromise, McBride said. We all play our part. I played mine. She trusted the system, and you let her die. I let no one do anything. McBride snapped. She got herself involved with things she didn't understand. Jet and Brody, they were animals. I tried to leash them, by paying them off, by keeping this town from burning, and it worked. Until her. He walked back to the desk and opened a drawer. You're here for this, aren't you? He pulled out a black leather ledger. Thin, clean, quiet, inside. Handwritten notations, dates, initials, amounts. Bribes, cover-ups, disbursements. Every dirty dime that had passed through city funds to keep the truth buried. Elaine's name appeared. Twice, once circled in red. So did Janie's. So did Crow's. Janelle stared. You kept this. McBride smiled. Call it insurance. You arrogant son of a. Finish that sentence, and I'll finish you, he said coldly. You don't scare me. You should be terrified. That night, Janelle met Tom and Caleb at an abandoned train depot. It was the only place no one listened. She dropped the ledger on the table like a loaded gun. Tom flipped through it, face white. This is everything. It's not admissible yet, Janelle said. He didn't give it willingly. But if we can prove the handwriting, Caleb interrupted. He gave it to you. He showed it to me. Didn't realize I scanned every page with my pocket cam. It's all here, Tom exhaled. So what now? Janelle looked up. We take the truth and go nuclear. The next morning, the town woke up to a war. A digital upload, anonymously posted to 5 platforms. The audio tape, the scanned ledger, the sketch of McBride, Sandra Parker's signed testimony. One title, Lark's View Files, Justice for Elaine. It spread like fire. By noon, the mayor had canceled all appearances. His office issued a no comment. The governor's office opened an emergency investigation. Journalists swarmed the town. Protesters gathered outside town hall, holding signs that read "Where's Janie?" and cops KILL whose necks. McBride fled, checked out of his home. His aide claimed he was on medical leave, but Janelle knew a runner when she saw one. Problem was, he hadn't run far enough. At 3:30 p.m., Caleb got the call. Blocked number. Same voice. Same chill. You should have stayed dead, Crow. He hung up. Janelle was already tracing the ping. County Tower, 5 miles, North Ridge Cabins. Tom grabbed his coat. He's going to tie up the last loose end. You're not coming, Janelle said. I am the loose end. They found McBride's car parked outside cabin 3. No lights, no noise. Just pine trees and a growing wind. Janelle entered first, gun drawn. Inside, silence. Then, the creak of a floorboard. She turned. Stanley. He emerged from the shadows, gun in hand. Face pale and wild. You think you can burn a man like me? He hissed. You burned yourself, Janelle said. We just lit the match. He raised the gun, but Caleb stepped forward. No more running, he said. McBride froze. Caleb looked him dead in the eye. I remember the night you paid. Brody, I remember what you said. They disappear, and we all breathe easy. I was 15. I never forgot. I never will. McBride's hand shook. You're nothing, he whispered. Caleb stepped closer. I'm the only thing left. Janelle moved fast. Gun up. Disarm. Slammed to the floor. It was over in seconds. McBride was arrested, booked, and denied bail. The state launched a full probe into Larksview PD. Chief Brody resigned before he could be cuffed. New warrants followed. Bodies were exhumed. Records were restored. Elaine Mercer was given a full-service funeral. 28 officers stood in silent formation, not because the department told them to, but because justice finally showed up in uniform. Janelle stood by her grave, a single rose in hand. She won, she said softly. Tom lit a candle. Caleb stood beside them, whole for the first time in his life. It rained on the day of Elaine Mercer's funeral. Not a storm, not dramatic, just a soft, steady rain, like the sky was gently weeping for everything this town had hidden. The headstone was simple, no rank, no badge, just her name and one line beneath it. She tried to save the truth. Janelle stood in her dark coat, hair damp, eyes dry. She didn't cry, not here, not now. Because today wasn't about grief. It was about witness. The town came out in quiet waves. Old women with rosaries, retired cops who'd served with her, teenagers who'd only heard her name 2 weeks ago, now carrying signs that said, she died so we could know. Caleb stood in the back, hands folded in front of him, suit too big for his thin frame. Tom Renner stood beside him, his cane planted like a soldier's flag. And then Sandra Parker arrived. She wore Janie's necklace, the glow-in-the-dark note, cleaned and whole. She sat on the front bench and whispered, I remember now. The service was short. No speeches. Just truth. Janelle approached the podium and pulled a single tape recorder from her coat pocket. The original cassette Elaine had made. She pressed play. Elaine's voice rose through the rain. If you're hearing this, I'm gone. But know this, I did not disappear. I did not run. I followed the truth into the dark, and I do not regret it. People closed their eyes. Others sobbed. Sandra leaned into Caleb and said, she sounds exactly the same, he replied. She never changed. Afterward, the mayor's office, now under a federal oversight committee, issued a formal proclamation. July 3rd would forever be known in Larksview as Elaine Mercer Day. Not a holiday, not a day off, a day of reckoning. Where citizens would gather and read the names of the silenced, where the files would be opened, where students would learn what happened when truth was buried, and what it took to dig it back up. 1 week later, Janelle returned to the ocean cliffs, same spot where Elaine's remains had been found. She stood there for a long time, the waves crashing far below, wind whipping her coat around her like a story trying to be told. She reached into her pocket, pulled out Elaine's badge, found in a sealed evidence locker, cleaned, unclaimed, waiting. She whispered, you earned this, and she threw it into the sea. Let it sink. Let it return. Let it watch. Tom Renner started a local nonprofit the following month, the Mercer Foundation Legal Defense for Whistleblowers and Forgotten Cold Cases. Sandra Parker joined as a researcher. Her first mission, reopen Janie's case, officially. With her name finally acknowledged. It was still listed as unsolved. But no one believed that anymore. Caleb Monroe left town, but not to hide. He took a bus north to speak, to tell his story, school to school. center to center. The boy who saw it all. The man who kept it alive. He always ended with the same line. Truth costs more than lies, but it's the only currency that buys peace. As for Janelle Carr, she stayed. She was offered promotions, transfer requests, interviews on talk shows. She turned them all down. She stayed in Larksview, not because she loved it, but because justice doesn't abandon the crime scene. She repainted Elaine's old locker at the station, reinstated her name in the patrol registry. Made sure no one forgot. And every year on July 3rd, she sat in front of the high school auditorium and pressed play on Elaine's tape. For the new generation, I did not disappear, and neither did the truth. On the 1-year anniversary, something strange happened. An envelope arrived at the precinct. No stamp, no return address. Inside, a photo. Elaine, smiling, in uniform. Beside her, a man no one had ever seen before, face blurred. And on the back, there are more of us. Keep digging. Janelle smiled, because stories don't end. They evolve. They stretch out like shadows, across decades, across bloodlines, across silence. Elaine Mercer never asked to be a martyr. She just wanted to finish the damn report. And maybe that's the most heroic thing a person can do. Refuse to look away, even when everyone else already has. Summer returned to Larksview like it was trying too hard to be normal. The streets were clean. The banners hung straight. A fresh coat of paint hid the rot, but not for Janelle Carr. She still walked like someone expecting a second shot to ring out. She still checked her mailbox for threats, or worse, silence. It had been 6 months since Elaine's story lit the town on fire. Brody, arrested. MC Bride, sentenced to life. For the town had breathed again. But deep in her gut, Janelle knew it. Something still didn't fit. Not because justice wasn't served, but because the ledger wasn't complete. 10 names had been written in Elaine's notes. They'd only exposed 9. And the 10th, badge number 4707, name blacked out. No records, no paper trail. Ghost cop. The answer came from the most unexpected place. A girl, maybe 13. Hair like ash, eyes like smoke. She walked into the precinct on a Wednesday, clutching a water-damaged journal to her chest like it was a lifeline. I want to report a murder, she said. Janelle crouched to eye level. Whose? The girl looked past her, then whispered, mine. The first time, they buried me, but I came back. Her name was Lacey Monroe, Caleb's niece. Sort of. Foster kid, in and out of placements. No fixed guardian. She'd gone missing 3 years ago, listed as a runaway. But she wasn't missing. She'd been drowned. She told Janelle everything. It was the lake, the one past Old Crow's Hollow. He said I saw too much. I didn't see anything. I was just fishing. He wore a uniform, no badge. But he called himself deputy, said my name was on the list. He held me under the water. Long enough. I should have died. But I woke up, in the reeds. Someone had pulled me out. Janelle felt the skin on her arms rise like a tide. Who pulled you out? The girl shrugged. I never saw her face. Just a silver badge in her palm. The next day, Janelle pulled every log for badge hashtag for 707. Still nothing. But then she did something old school. She stopped looking at names and started looking at photos. Through dusty yearbooks, obscure academy rosters, patrol graduation pamphlets from the 70s. And then she found her. A grainy class photo. Second row, right side, tight jaw, no smile. Name, Deputy Miriam Lovett, resigned, 1978, 1 year after Elaine vanished. Reason, medical. No forwarding address. No family contacts. No file. Just a face that looked to calm in a room full of chaos. Janelle drove 5 hours east to a hospice center, under a different county's name. Miriam was there, alive, barely, hooked to machines, slipping, in and out of morphine dreams. When Janelle showed her the badge number, she blinked once, long, slow. I buried the list, she whispered. But she kept digging. Elaine? Janelle asked. Miriam nodded. She was right. We were all in it. Me, Jet, Brody, even McBride. But I didn't kill. I only watched. That was my crime. Why the girl? Janelle demanded. Why, Lacey? I didn't send him. I tried to stop him, but once the machine starts, you either feed it or you become the next offering. Who is he? Miriam's hand clenched weakly. No badge, she rasped. No name, just called himself the keeper. Took the list after Elaine died. Said we'd only be safe if it stayed secret. Janelle froze. You're saying there's someone above McBride? Miriam gave one last nod, then flatlined at the station. Janelle reviewed the recovered journal from Lacey. Water-damaged. Pages stuck together. But one line stood out, scrawled across the last page, in red ink, jagged and angry. The town keeps forgetting, but the water remembers. 2 days later, divers found a metal lockbox beneath Crow's Hollow Lake. Inside, bones, badges, photographs. One photo showed a young woman with a silver cross necklace. Sandra Parker gasped when she saw it. That's not Janie, she whispered. That's someone else, someone before. Beneath the photo, a torn note. 77 wasn't the first time. Larksview drinks from poisoned ground. It wasn't over. Elaine's story hadn't been the end. It had been the crack in the dam, and something older, darker, was starting to surface. Janelle stood once more at the ocean cliff where Elaine had died. She looked down, but this time, she didn't see loss. She saw the truth floating upward, like bones unburying themselves. Behind her, Lacey stood silently. They won't stop, the girl said. No, Janelle replied, but neither will we.